Hi, I'm Dongfang. Prior to 1918, suffrage in the UK was very restrictive, being available only to men who had been resident in the country for more than 12 months. There was a lot of controversy over this. However, in the Representation of the People Act 1918, the right to vote was extended, giving women over the age of 30 the right to vote in Parliament. It was not until 1928 that women over the age of 21 were allowed to vote, at which point they had equal voting rights with the men. In Malaysia, and in the United Kingdom, a simple majority first past the post system is adopted. The federal constitution provides for the adoption of this voting system in Malaysia and sets out the criteria for the election commission. In every country, the electoral system is one of the important systems of the state. The fairness of elections represents the balance of power in a country, as well as the hearts and minds of the people. Therefore, the measurement of whether a citizen has the right to vote should be strict. To vote in a general election in the UK, it must be the first 18 years of age or older on polling day and a British national. The third one is a British, Irish, or eligible Commonwealth citizens. Third, resident in the UK. Changes have been made in the Electoral Act 2022 to make it easier for people to vote and to adapt to today's society. Different voting procedures are used by the House of Commons, Scottish Parliament, National Assembly for Wales, Northern Ireland Assembly, and the UK local councils. Parliamentary elections in the UK are based on a simple majority electoral system. The candidate who wins the most votes in an election wins the seat. This electoral system looks only at the number of votes and not the proportion of votes cast. So it is easy to understand and less expensive. And the results can be known quickly after the polls close to announce the results of the candidature. The reasons for the UK's simple majority electoral system also include the fact that it gives voters a clear choice of who to support and that it is suitable for a two-party system. Alternative votes are used to elect the chairpersons of most committees in the House of Commons, where candidates who win 50% of the first round of ballots win, and the voters are allowed to rank the candidates according to preference. Supplementary voting allows one to express one's views by voting for two candidates, and it is similar to alternative voting. This voting system would work well with only three candidates. Another important form of voting is the single transferable vote, which applies to elections to the Northern Ireland Assembly, as well as local elections in Scotland and Northern Ireland. It puts power into the hands of the public and allows voters to elect all councillors on the basis of their individual ability and is more democratic. The last electoral system is the additional member system, which is a hybrid electoral system. In this system, each voter generally has two votes, one for the constituency in his or her area and the other for a wider constituency. This system gives broader powers to political parties, which can control who is included in the regional list.
Hi, my name is Ho Jun Yang, and I'll be talking about the merits and demerits of lowering the voting age from 18 to 16 in relation to the franchise. Like many democracies, the UK is not an exception when it comes to the ongoing disputes over the voting age. The question of whether to reduce the voting age from 18 to 16 and allowing young people to engage in the political process earlier in life has been a major source of debate. Significant discussion that has been sparked by this proposed change in the eligibility for the franchise among political analysts, legislators, and the general public. Supporters condemn that this would empower and involve younger people in the democratic process, while detractors question 16 years old's maturity, impact, and capacity for making thoughtful political decisions. We will weigh the benefits and drawbacks of reducing the voting age in the UK from 18 to 16 in this debate, taking into account possible effects on the right to vote, civic engagement, and the political environment. In November 2017, a private member's bill to reduce the UK voting age to 16 was considered in the House of Commons. Regretfully, the discussion lacked depth and neglected to cover the range of recent research on the topic. Concerns about norms were voiced by several advocates in relation to youth participation and other responsibilities. Even if such reasons are important, they may easily be disproved by highlighting the rights that 16 years old do not have, the complexity of the normative defenses of teenage citizens and involvement. Because of the emphasis on normative arguments and anecdotes, opponents of the bills were only able to dismiss apparent empirical criticism of the legislations without seriously analyzing them. Concerns about voter turnout and public approval are two that are frequently brought up. Those who support allowing 16-year-olds to vote frequently point out that the youngest age groups, those between the ages of 18 and 24 and 18 and 29, usually have the lowest voter turnout percentages. As a result, they propose that making voting available to 16 years old could worsen the problem of lower overall turnout, suggesting that the younger generation may not be prepared to take part in elections. Out of 650 seats, 88 have a higher proportion of 16 and 17 years old than the majority that the current MP holds. Based on the idea that young people are more likely to vote Labour, 34 Conservative MPs are in danger of losing their seats should the franchise be extended. If these MPs lose their seats, it could lead to a loss of the Conservative Party's majority in the House of Commons. This would weaken the government's ability to pass legislation and govern effectively. Key legislative initiatives may be delayed or modified to secure the support of other parties. Austria is the only other significant European nation that lowered the voting age to 16 in 2007. Although the reform hasn't really attained Austria's political climate, it has increased political literacy and produced a new generation of devoted voters. In the last 3 years, 79% of Austrians between the age of 15 and 30 cast ballots, the highest percentage in Europe. The average is 64%. It's fascinating to consider, though, what happened in Scotland, where voting was restricted to 16 years old for some elections. Before these modifications, support and resistance to lowering the voting age were comparable to those in the UK. However, popular support for lowering the voting age virtually increased in Scotland as a result of seeing the involvement and participation of young people in the electoral process. 60% of Scots support this move. This implies that real-world experience and observation of 16 years old using their right to vote can impact public opinion on this issue. These divergent levels of support suggest that it may be necessary to engage with evidence from periods when younger people are really allowed to vote, rather than assuming that younger people will behave like their older mates. The Scottish situation is a powerful illustration of how practical experience may change public opinion and promote an early enfranchisement viewpoint that is more favorable. Thus, when weighing the benefits and drawbacks of reducing the voting age, it is crucial to take public opinion into account in addition to the real-world effects on the engagement of younger citizens in the democratic process. The endorsement of voting rights for individuals aged 16 and 17 by the government conveys that their views and apprehensions are esteemed, which has the potential to cultivate an enduring commitment to civic engagement. An early introduction to the process of voting has the potential to foster enduring patterns of civic participation. There is empirical evidence suggesting that individuals who participate in the initial eligible elections are more inclined to vote in subsequent election over the course of their lifetime, and it could potentially enhance overall voter turnout, given that younger individuals generally exhibit lower rates of participation when they initially attain the age of 18. An increase in early engagements and interest could potentially lead to a rise in the overall voter participation rate. And for the conclusion, the argument regarding reducing the UK's voting age from 18 to 16 is a complicated one that has generated a lot of controversy. Some contend that this kind of adjustment will empower and involve younger people in the political process, thereby encouraging a lifetime interest in civic engagement. Early voting instruction has the potential to create long-lasting patterns of civic engagement. Empirical data indicates that voters who participate in their first eligible elections are more likely to do so in subsequent elections. Moreover, it could tackle the problem of young people turning out less often to vote when they first become eligible at age 18.
Hi, I'm Ting. Just now we have heard discussion about lowering the voting age, which can be considered as one proposed reform in the UK. And now I will continue to discuss two electoral reform which can be done in the UK. There have been ongoing calls for the UK to abandon first past the post and adopt a proportional representation system. Critics argue that the former always leads to wasted votes, with many votes not influencing the outcome. It also results in a lack of proportionality, with parties' share of the votes not matching the seat they win. Also, it tends to favor major party, making it challenging for smaller party and independent candidates to secure the seats, limiting diversity and voter choice. For instance, in 1997 election, Labour received 43.2% of the votes, but won 63% of the seats, while the Tories and Liberal Democrats got 47.5% of the votes, but only 32.1% of the seats. Since 1950s, voting trend had evolved, with a significant decrease from 97% to 67% in support for the two main parties. Parties other than the Measure 3 received nearly a quarter of the votes in the 2015 election. As such, the UK needs a voting system that is updated to reflect that. Proportional representation system is started as the solution, since making every vote count is a vital part of the process of reconnecting people in politics. Under proportional representation, there is a clear cause and effect relationship for the voters. Their vote directly impact a candidate's chances of being elected. By doing so, voters achieve more representation for their views. Furthermore, under first past the post, the government has strong control over the parliament. Since the Prime Minister is heading both the executive branch and the majority party in the legislative. Proponents argue that proportional representation system can reduce the likelihood of a single-party government with large majority, preserving the separation of power and parliamentary sovereignty. It fosters a more robust system of check and balance, ensuring that the government doesn't misuse its power to affect the parliament decision. However, critics argue that proportional representation system may lead to coalition government, potentially prolonging the process of forming a government. Thus, to implement a proportional system effectively, new processes will need to be developed to ensure the proper functioning of the government. Another significant electoral reform proposal is automatic voter registration, involving enrolling citizens onto the electoral register without them to taking proactive action. Hobby had identified few problems in relation to the accuracy, completeness, and equity about the quality of the current individual electoral registration system, which require the individual to register themselves. First, individual electoral register system cannot ensure the accuracy of registration sufficiently. For instance, between 8.3 and 9.4 million eligible voters were not correctly registered in December 2018. Second, the completeness refers to the extent which every person who is entitled to be registered is registered. However, the reality is millions of the eligible voters are omitted from the electoral rolls. The error in registration and absence of the names means that they may not be able to cast their vote. Finally, inequality exists in the registration rates. with lower participation among specific groups, such as Commonwealth or EU citizens, individual of Black and Asian ethnicity, and lower socioeconomic groups. If certain groups appear less frequently on the register, this means that they have much less influence. To address the issue, they have been called to implement automatic voter registration to enhance the accuracy and completeness of register. A step-led registration like automatic voter registration can increase the completeness of the electoral register by ensuring that eligible voters are automatically registered and provide every citizen equal access to their fundamental right to vote, regardless of their socio-economic status. One recommended method for implementing automatic voter registration is using the existing customer information system, which is a government database with comprehensive data on the UK citizens to create an electoral register. This approach can reduce the errors and inefficiencies in the electoral process by using information already on file with government agencies to identify the eligible voters, add them onto the voter list, and efficiently maintain updated voter information. In summary, electoral reform is important to strengthen the UK's democracy. Transitioning to the proportional representation system is highly recommended to address the shortcomings of first-past the post, ensuring all the voter voices are heard. Meanwhile, automatic voter registration is proposed to enhance the voter registration accuracy and accessibility, ultimately striving to ensure that all of the eligible citizens have equal access to their fundamental right to vote.
In the past 15th general election, a historical change has been made. The age of voting has been lowered from the age of 21 to 18. This is because in July 2019, the amendment of Article 119 subsection 1 of the Federal Constitution of lowering the minimum age from 21 to 18 years old in our country has been successfully passed. Hence, there are both pros and cons to franchise in lowering the voting age. By lowering the voting age to 18 years old, it increases the citizens' political franchise. Since the 1960s, the voting age has been set at a minimum age of 18 years old in 86% of the countries worldwide. Most of them have lowered their voting age from 21 to 18 years old. It should not be seen as something unusual, since 18 years old are usually being defined as adult and they are mature enough to make decisions. According to statistics from the start, a total number of 21,173,638 voters were eligible to participate in the 15th general election. Meanwhile, 1,393,549 of them as the new voters of age 18 to 20 was expected since they were being automatically registered. Moreover, Malaysia's Age of Majority Act 1971 establishes 18 as the age of majority. On the other hand, by lowering the age of voting, BNPN and PAS will probably benefit from the new cohort of voters which have a comparatively higher proportion of Bumiputra voters. Lowering the voting age to 18 years old is fair enough for them that their voices were being heard during the elections since many of them have been working at contributing to the society at this age, which as well increases the diversity of voters. But on the other hand, the proportion of the new voters among the age group of 18 to 25 is higher in Bumiputra as compared to the others of non-Bumiputra. It might be resulting them from being influenced or manipulated by the political parties, since decisions made by the voters of this group age might be easily involved by the others around them as they are lacking of social experience. Due to the slight advantage of these political parties of having a higher share of Bumiputra voters, it may lead to an electoral outcomes that they do not fully reflect the diverse needs and preference of all Malaysians. Next, lowering the voting age might increase malapportionment in Malaysia. This issue had made Malaysia the 30th worst malapportionment country in the world, which is the highest level in history of our own country. Certain political parties might have not a good performance in the larger urban areas, but they might manage to benefit from the small rural areas. With the constitutional amendments made, it exacerbates the issue. This is because most of the younger voters tend to be in the urban area as compared to the rural areas. As we could see, the ratio in West Malaysia between the largest and smallest constituency has reached 11.45%. In some areas such as Bangi and Lenggong, where the electoral size was 8 times larger in Bangi as compared to Lenggong. The malapportionment issue leads to negative consequences which are namely violation of fair election principles, poorer welfare outcomes, and lower inclination to vote in larger constituencies. Voters in this larger area will see that their votes as less consequential and causing them to have a mindset that it doesn't matter even if they don't vote, since that it won't make a huge difference, leading to a lower electoral rate. And therefore, malapportionment could be a huge issue faced by lowering the voting age. As a conclusion, lowering the voting age to 18 years old helps in expansion of citizens' political franchise, and as well as being able to catch up with the norms around the world, even though that it might cause some negative issues such as malapportionment. Meanwhile, it gets the youth exposed in the political system at a younger age, having a concept of how it works and develops critical thinking skills, leading the future generation in becoming a stronger leader. At the same time, the political parties should be open-minded in accepting suggestions from the new voters so that they will be able to understand their thoughts and hopes about the country.
Hi, my name is Lin Lao Yi. Malapportionment and gerrymandering cannot be ratified unless amendments are made to the electoral system in Malaysia. According to the reporter Wong Ching-Huat, Article 46 of the Federal Constitution allowed interstate malapportionment in the way of allowing the parliament to allocate every which way to the seats across states. It is clear that in election of 2018, the Bangi constituency in Selangor had 178,190 voters, which is 9 times of 19,592 voters in the Igang constituency in Sarawak State. Read together with the Section 2, subsection C of the 13th Schedule of Federal Constitution, the number of electors within each constituency in the state ought to be approximately equal, except that having regard to the greater difficulty of reaching electors in the country districts and the other disadvantages facing rural constituencies, a measure of weightage for each area ought to be given to such constituencies. In addition, the demand by Section 2D of the 13th Schedule has worsened the condition of gerrymandering due to the vaguely worded inconveniences and maintenance of local ties. The Constitution has stated both the Section 2C and Section 2D have to be taken into account in dividing the unit of constituencies or area weightage. Therefore, a reformation of the legislation to define the terms in both sections will limit the Electoral Commission to dividing fairer boundaries. Next, a 35% allocation of Parliament Quota 6 to Borneo states is required to have proportional constituency and correct the condition of malapportionment in Malaysia. In the current state, the Borneo states are only entitled to up to 20% of the whole country's population, which would allow a disproportionate influence on the interests of people in the country. However, there is a non-governmental organization has argued that the Sarawak request to have 1/3 of seats in Dewan Rakyat or Senate have no legal basis to do so, as there is nothing in the Malaysia Agreement 1963, the MX63, that guarantees the 35% representation, but only for 7 years after the formation of Malaysia. So even we don't have the MX63 agreement, this construct is needed for Malaysia's electoral system reformation. There is a necessity for constitutional reformation, as when there is greater inequality in representation will go against the democracy, which could lead to a federation with enough seats in the parliament to form a majority government, but only supported by minority population. In conclusion, by lowering the voting age, it can promote early engagement of younger voters in election and also the participation in politics. It will also increase the diversity of the voters in the election.
but it also can worsen the condition of malapportionment and gerrymandering. So we suggest to adopt a proportional representation system, as the proportional representation system can reduce the likelihood of single-party governments with large majorities, preserving the separation of powers and also parliamentary sovereignty, because it fosters a more robust system of check and balance and ensuring the government doesn't misuse its power. We also suggest to implement an automatic voter registration system by using the existing customer information system, which is a government database with comprehensive data on UK citizens, to create an electoral register. This approach can efficiently maintain current and accurate voter information and addressing the issue of inaccurate registration for the reformation in UK. We also suggest to do the amendments to the federal constitution in Malaysia and also increasing the quota seat to 35% for the Borneo state. That's all from us. Thank you.